Welcome to Virginia Currents. I'm Daphne Maxwell Reed. Now, Virginia is the nation's third largest producer of marine products, outpaced only by Alaska and Louisiana. Yet making a living on the water is becoming a dying trade because of unpredictable fishery stocks and weather and increasing costs and regulations. Now, to help preserve this centuries-old trade is the Virginia Waterman Heritage Tours. This program helps supplement the watermen's incomes while improving tourism. Captains like William Saunders are trained to give tours that share their knowledge of Chesapeake seafood, history, ecology, and being a waterman with area residents and visitors. Now let's hop aboard the Miss Nicole at the Tides Inn Marina in Irvington and get a taste of life on the bay.
I didn't pick to do this, it kind of picked me, I prefer to say. You don't pick this career, you're chosen. My grandfather was a waterman, and I lost my dad to Vietnam, so it kind of skipped a generation. So I've been on the water. I had my first boat at 8. I had a wooden skiff. Actually, I still have one today. Come on. He is my first mate. Being on the commercial side or being a commercial waterman, you have times when you do really well, and then there's times everything's stagnant, and you can work a month and not make a cent, or you can go out that day and you can go in the hole negative $200 or $300 and go the other way. I mean, it's a lifestyle, but that's kind of why I've diversified and do what I do, is I always know what I'm going to make at the end of the day, and that's a nice feature. It's a nice safety net to have. Welcome aboard. I'm Captain Saunders.
Thank you, Captain.
The main goal of the Virginia Waterman's Heritage Tour program is to supplement working watermen's income, to establish them as ambassadors for a clean bay, and to get fresh Virginia seafood to your table. And another goal would be to increase tourism to our regional areas. It's a tailorable experience. It's absolutely wonderful because you can pick up the phone and you can call one of the participating watermen and you can say, I want a hands-on experience. I would like to be able to tong my own oysters. They'll be able to tailor a tour for that. You can say, I don't want to get dirty. I want to go take a ride on the river. I want to learn about the history of the East River or the Potomac or this part of the Chesapeake Bay. You can get a historical tour. You can get a lighthouse tour.
Up until the mid-'80s, there used to be 13 seafood houses on this creek alone, with over 200 of these boats, just like this wooden boat, which are almost none of them left today. Today there's one processing house, and on this creek alone there's only 3 working privately owned boats, and you happen to be on one of them. They're baited with a fish in the bottom. They go in there for something to eat. And if you notice this escape ring here, that is a very specific size, believe it or not. That allows 2 things. Number one, the sustainability of the industry by letting the small ones go, but it also cuts down on the sorting for the watermen because they don't have to go through as many little crabs. This crab is about to shed into a soft shell. And when they actually shed, they grow about 33% of their body size each time they shed. And they generally, in the summertime in the months, will shed once a month. So they can, lifespan is typically 2 years on a crab. These are both little, so we're gonna let them go. Here we have a female crab. She's identifiable by a wide apron on the bottom, but also if you notice she has orange tips on her claws. The female crab is usually going to table market to eat for crab cakes or crab soup or crab dip. And then the male, of course, usually goes to the steam crab market. And they tend to be bigger crabs, and he's identifiable by the blue claws. Ain't that right, Rusty? You tell him, boy. Here we have Calum Seafood, W. Calum Seafood. They're starting their 5th generation of a family business. Since World War II to this day, they've supplied Kroger. An oyster is both male and female. At about 3 inches in size, they actually change sexes and self-reproduce. They're actually planting a triploid oyster on it. They put 6 little baby oysters on each one of them, and they plant them back out. It's called a spat on shells. Those oysters you eat year-round because they don't reproduce. They spend their whole life growing. They can grow up to 4 times faster than the native wild-caught oyster. They literally take a fire hose and blow them off the deck. Whereas they blow them off, they don't end up in piles, they end up distributed evenly. So they're putting it on bottom that they've leased so they can go back and reharvest.
I was always told you don't eat oysters unless it's a month with an R in the name.
The R stands for refrigeration. All your months with the month of R, and it either had cold water or they were spawning. These oysters here they're planting don't spawn. Any seafood typically out of cold water, if you think about it, tastes better. Look at codfish, king crabs, they all come into cold water. Do you know why the oyster hogged all the sauce? It was a little shellfish. Over here we have Willoughby's Restaurant. That used to be the ferry dock before they built this bridge in 1956. It held 16 cars. It was a ferry that went across. That is the mouth of the Rappahannock River and the beginning of the Chesapeake Bay and the most central point. In July of 1607, John Smith mapped out the Chesapeake Bay. He came to the Rappahannock. He went ashore there. And when he went ashore, he was stung by a stingray, and he almost died from it like the crocodile hunter. And he named that Stingray Point, which happens to still be its name today. They saw smoke on the other side of the river, and they carried him over, and he was treated with salves by the Rapidan Indians, and whatever it did to make him live, and he survived, and he named it Anti-Poison Creek, which is still its name today. Yes, it is. And their claim to fame is they have the world's greatest GPS system, believe it or not. Every year they arrive here between the 10th and 15th of March, and they leave between the 10th and 15th of September. You can set your clock to it. They have tracked him. They fly 4 days nonstop back and forth to South America to the nest that they left from. They mate as a pair for life and do not choose another mate. And their lifespan is about 13 years. And they diet as fish, and they dive in the water in excess of 60 miles an hour. To me, what's most rewarding about what I do, besides paying my mortgage, it's seeing the smile on these people's faces. It's that simple. Over here, we happen to have my cousin, Broadus Blake. I'm the only native oysterman, he's the only native crabber.
You want me to describe the average waterman? It's so difficult because they're all authentic, but I can tell you one word that summarizes it is resilience, I would say. Adaptability. They're able to diversify, they're able to embrace programs like this and continue to be able to work on the water. I can't imagine the bay without working watermen.
Thank you, young man. Thank you so much. Thank you.
To find out more about the Virginia Waterman Heritage Tours, go to watermantours.com. You can select a departure site and one of many different types of tours, including seafood tasting and crabbing. To get a lesson in crab picking, we go to the Dog and Oyster Vineyard that specializes in another Virginia homegrown specialty, wine.
Usually the first thing that everybody does is to pull the legs off. Right, Betty?
The one I always go for the apron first.
Oh, you do.
This is the bottom of the crab. You can just pick that out with your finger and pull it back like that. Pop the shell off, just like that. And we remove the gills and all the guts from the inside, the mustard as they call it.
A lot of people will eat that.
I was going to say that's a favorite part.
Now this is what I do. This is where Betty and I separate our technique. I break that into two pieces. Kind of cracking open this piece here for all that delicious white meat that's in there. Betty, you have a much more efficient technique than I do with a knife.
I'm gonna go down here, close. And this right here is the back fin. This right here is the lump crab meat. That's what we use in the restaurant.
You got the leg right here, right? And you break it into two pieces. Take the edge of the knife right against the hinge of the claw, right here like this, and take your mallet, and if you just lightly tap through it like that, it makes a crack when you break it open like that. That's an easy way.
Yay, I get a frame.
Is it good? How's the crabs taste? Excellent.
Yeah.